Hey guys, I'm Reggie Ponder, the real critic. Welcome back. I got my friends back in the house. Look, you got to find these people because they're so busy. I got KB in the house. KB, where you located? You're not even at home, right?
No, I'm busy out working, but it is a great Friday to chat about some TV and films. And I did miss my week because I had a little emergency, but all back and ready to go. So thanks for having me again, Reggie.
Well, I always love talking to you. Look, Katya, I'm upset with you, not because it's you per se, but I'm upset with you because there's too many shows out here that are in the Philly area, and you starting to feel yourself. Like you got Bel Air, we got Abbott Elementary. We need to stop this. We need to stop.
No, we it's our time. You know what I mean? Like Chicago, New York, all these cities have gotten love. I mean, you watch Chicago. Come on, you get a whole slew of shows a day. Like, come on, for years now. What everything like a cop show, a fire show, a medical show. You good? You know what I mean?
All
And
right, all
Lord
right.
knows what other spinoffs. So it's nice. I always say it's nice to be in the news for good things, not snowball fighting with Santa Claus and other craziness that can happen in our city. So I'm very happy that we're in the news for this.
No, I'm happy for you guys as well. So I want to get a couple of business stuff out the way first, and because we are in a number of organizations, the first I'm wearing my Africa T-shirt, as you can see. I like to just at minimum get out there what the awards are for Africa this year. We actually have our big gala coming up, and I'm actually going to put that on the screen because I figured out how to share the screen all by myself, y'all. All by my lonesome. I figured this whole thing out. So here we go with our awards, and just if there's any thoughts that you guys might have about the awards that are out here. My biggest thought is that we are honoring the movie The Harder They Fall, and nobody else generally has awards for The Harder They Fall. It just seems like it fell out of favor for many of the awards out there. But that would be my biggest observation. Any thoughts, you guys?
Yeah, I would agree. I haven't seen too much conversation around it. Listen, I thought it was a really good film. I think, I want to see more Black Westerns. Actually, I want to see more because I've seen a couple of Asian-led Westerns too. I just want to see more, Black and brown people in Westerns because I think it's a great genre. It's a lot of fun. And I did absolutely adore this film. But you're right, I haven't heard a lot of conversation around it. But, here we are to present it with the love that it deserves.
And we did it in a number of areas. Obviously, with Best Picture, we got Best Director with James Samuel. We have Best Ensemble, I'm really glad that we have that section. And then
Now,
we
I
have
will say this, I definitely think it had the best music, like hands down of any film that I saw last year, 100%. I feel like it had the best music and should be in more music conversations. Now, I think James Samuel did his thing, but I'm gonna push back because I definitely really wanted Rebecca Hall to be in this category for passing. So
Well, I feel that. I mean, Rebecca Hall did a really great job, and it was interesting. I think we all got a chance to speak with her, but it was also interesting just talking with her about her approach and her whole mindset as she approached that film. So, hey, no, I'm not hating on you for that one. Katya, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would have liked to see Tessa in there instead of Jennifer. That's who got my vote for Best Actress. But I don't think Jennifer did a bad job in respect. I think what Tessa did was harder and it was more challenging in a more challenging film. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Jennifer got to do an extension of something that is natural to her, which is to sing and to sing music that she's very familiar with it. Where I feel like, Rebecca had to give a very internalized performance for You know what I mean? I mean, not Rebecca,
I
sorry,
do.
Tessa. I think of her very, because it's if you when you meet her, she's very outgoing and very cheerful, and to play a woman that is so internalizes everything, and I mean everything, had to have been really really hard, and especially that scene, where she meets Reenie's husband. I mean, excuse me, where she meets Claire's husband, and he's saying a whole bunch of stuff, and she can't really retaliate because he thinks she's white. So
And that's so interesting because I'm watching KB over there like, girl, tell it, tell it, tell it.
yeah,
I,
so that's my only one. But I'm
the-
happy to see family, because we are family. Our Africa family is family.
yeah,
Right.
the only pushback that I'll have though, Katya, is that I don't fault Jennifer for doing what she does. I don't have a problem that I think, at least for me, I think it's kind of unfair to say, hey, because she sings and she was able to do what she does, she's not deserving. I think that your points about Tessa just in and of themselves stand on their own merit. Is that what she did? In my opinion, warrants a look, and I don't think a lot of people were talking about Tessa at all. But I just don't think the two have to mix. Is that if Tessa was good, Tessa was good, and I think she was. I'm so glad you brought that up for me, because I said, hey, one of the more glaring things is that nobody's talking about Harder They Fall. I don't think anybody's talking about Tessa and her role, generally her role in that movie.
I think it's a performance that will live long, and it's a film that we'll come to appreciate more as time passes, especially race being such a huge issue, not just in America but globally. It's still something that we're tackling. It's still something that we're trying to you know figure out how to have a honest discussion around it, and this is definitely one of those topics.
Any other last thought on that, KP? Because I did see you shaking your head about Tessa.
Oh no, I was just shaking my head because I do think that her and Ruth Nega, the way they were able to play off of each other in this film was just so divine. And I don't think that either of them are really getting the due that I thought that they would, kind of this award season. But I do think that Katya is right. Like, it is so multifaceted and so multi-layered, the performances, that I do think that as time goes on, people are probably going to be upset that they didn't vote for them, kind of in this award season, because if they continue to watch, they'll be able to catch the depths and the layers of that performance in the story.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, excellent. Well, then the next thing I want to do is I want to do a little commercial. We're in another organization, and that organization is the Critics' Choice Awards. That is coming up on the 13th, and I thought that we would just let people see who they're gonna um, see in the house. And of course, I didn't have that all full screen. So look, I'm learning, y'all. But I get it
I'm
there.
impressed.
I
Look
I
at you.
I'll get it there.
You
Um,
got special effects. Hello. Come on now.
well, it'd be good if it would just play. But that's a whole nother thing. But
Listen, you get an 8. That's way more than I would have done. If you would just put a picture, and we would have been like, this is the host, this is where you can see it, and God bless.
well, I was gonna try to play that, but I don't think we gonna see. I don't think we're gonna see that. So I am about to just do exactly what you said, because we got to keep it moving. So hold on one second here. I'm in a in a
We
little.
need to get you a check. You out here doing marketing promotion. Like, hello.
Ah, well,
I'd
you,
be like, and cut the check.
all right. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me get
It
out
is
of here.
coming out the 13th, and you can see it on TBS
And the CW.
and in the CW. And
Right.
they're on usually, yeah, because it has to be on at 8 our time, Eastern time. I, d- the
Right.
rest.
So you can see it on both of those. With that, that's the business of the day. Just thought that obviously we support the organizations we're part of, and then really get into some movies. The first movie I want to get into is a movie it's kind of funny, Katya, because you and I were talking about how long we saw the movie, and and it's just coming out now. And this happens all the time, but sometimes you actually forget all the things in the movie because it was so long ago, but it's just coming out now. Tell us what this one's about and tell us how you felt about
It's a modern day interpretation of Cyrano de Bergerac. And yes, we were in New York, right? And our lovely stay and our view when we still could roam, when we were roaming, we were getting out there in New York in the beautiful winter time and holidays, you know what I mean? Enjoying the lights. And it's about Cyrano de Bergerac, and it's just but this movie is different because they're singing, and it's like a musical almost, right? And it stars Peter Dinklage and Kelvin Harrison, and Peter is obviously Cyrano, and Kelvin is Christian, and it's the same tale where handsome man sees Roxanne, who is gorgeous, but he's got no game. Meanwhile, Cyrano has been in love with Roxanne from afar and admires her, and he's very gallant. And he has the words. So, like men often, when they get together, come up with terrible ideas. And this is, on surface, a good idea, but it just blows up. Whereas Cyrano gives Christian the words to woo Roxanne, who does not want to be, you can't just show up and tell her, I'm rich, I have things. She wants to be wooed. And of course, Cyrano has the words and Christian has the looks. And it gets interesting as they kind of continue this farce. What I liked about this is number one, Peter Dinklage. I think Peter is an amazing actor, point blank, period. Nothing else. We don't need to say for a. He is a really good actor. And I really would have loved to see him be the fifth slot instead of Javier Bardem. I mean, that would have been, because I'm really trying to figure out how that happened. But having said that, he sword fights in this film. And all of us that watch Games of Thrones are like, so we knew, where was this skill set for Games of Thrones? That would have been really, really cool to see Tyrion, get to, mix it up a little bit. But I like the fact that they gave him fight scenes. I like the fact that he is cool. He's debonair. I also like the fact that Calvin wasn't afraid to play somebody who is handsome and strong, but at the same time, he's like, when it comes to women, he's like, I got no game. I am lost here in the sauce. And I think it's beautifully shot. They shot this in Italy during the pandemic in a small town. So they had the town, so they were very isolated. So they had the freedom to move and shoot this, but it's beautifully shot. The music is interesting. And it is, if you, Lord knows we need some escapism now. So if you want that, you want to get lost in a romantic world, Cyrano's for you.
Yeah, I thought they did a nice job with this. I don't think that it's going to kill anybody from an award standpoint, but I do think that what you just said about Peter, I thought that his performance was definitely award worthy. The film was solid all the way through, but it doesn't necessarily blow you away. I will tell you, I thought that Kelvin Harrison Jr. held his own with Peter for sure. The only thing that got me, and it's the story. The story is the story. It took me a minute to buy into the fact that Kelvin fell for Bennett hook, line, and sinker with one look. I'm like, really, seriously? But I understand that there's this thing called love at first sight. Oh, that's a show. I forgot. But I know there's this thing called love at first sight. But it took me a minute just to buy into that he was like all into her that quickly. And I just thought that they did a nice interpretation overall. Now the singing, it's fine. It's not. Again, I think that's where people feel a little bit uneven. It's a little bit uneven. Is that I think actually that Harrison felt a little bit more at ease with the singing than most of the other characters. At least that's how it felt for me. But I think this is a watch it. It was enjoyable. It was fun. And if you like that wherefore art thou you language, this will quench your thirst for that.
I agree. It's a nice date movie, and so again, if you just want to see something less sad in the world, go see this film.
Well, and so the next film, KB, I need you to bring this in. as because when you look at a film like Cyrano, we've done that before, but this one is what, Uncharted.
Listen, I have seen, kind of the other iterations of Cyrano, and that's probably why I haven't seen this one yet. One, I just didn't have the time, and two, I actually really enjoyed the other ones growing up. However, Uncharted is a video game series of the same name that is turned into an action film starring Tom. Tom is really in his action bag right now. Tom Holland, obviously coming off the heels of Spider-Man. I can't wait till we see him in, I don't know, a romantic comedy and, maybe just a regular comedy. Maybe a drama, a different type of drama, unlike the last one that he did, Cherry. I really want to see him, kind of do a couple of different things. But I will say, in Uncharted, in my personal opinion, he is one of the best parts. He kills the stunts. I think that he has great chemistry with all of the other actors. It also stars Mark Wahlberg, who, I'm not even really gonna lie, is unforgettable in this film because, in my personal opinion, like, eh, it really could have been anybody in this role. That's kind of how I felt. But basically, the way the story goes is they're two brothers at the start of the film, Sam and Nate, and Tom Holland plays Nate, and they are orphans. Their parents died, and they are really into treasure hunting. Kind of finding the first world map and striking gold. Essentially, is like really what they want to do. Well, Sam decides to leave Nate to go on this journey. He's the older brother. He decides to leave Nate, go on this journey, and then they don't see each other for decades. Like that's truly the way it goes, which is actually quite sad when you think about it. So Nate just kind of grows up, figure out life on his own, and ends up in bed, so to speak. I'm gonna put that in quotes, but he ends up doing work with Sully, who is Mark Wahlberg's character, and decides to get into partnership to find this gold. Well, Sully can't be trusted. I mean, in general, he literally cannot be trusted. Like he is just a very sketchy character. Um, and their adventure takes off. So it takes them around the world. There are a lot of people that they meet along the way. So Chloe Fraser, she's portrayed by Sophia Ali, who is one of the lead actors in The Wilds. Sophia Ali also used to be on Grey's Anatomy. And then there's Tati Gabriel, who stars as Jo. She is BA. I love Tati Gabriel, like for a lot of reasons. I think that she was wildly underutilized on The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And once they finally got it together, well, then the show ended. So, she is truly, truly multi-talented. She's been in the latest season of You. She's great. My one point of contention is in this here Black History Month, when this film has been released, not them making the Black woman the villain of this, though, y'all. Like, when truly the real villain is Sully, Mark Wahlberg's character, because he is quite awful and we don't know anything about him and he is not the best type of person. So I will say, Sully is, for me, the true villain of the character, but they really tried the whole film to make it Jo. And I was like, if y'all stop making Black women this way, like, listen, I like to think of Jo as a woman with a purpose and a plan who is looking for the reparations that are rightfully owed to her. So that is
wow, what an interpretation. All I can say is that I did not see it like that. And I didn't mind her being the villain because I thought she was kind of badass. But I for me, though, is that when you start talking about Mark Wahlberg on this and say there could have been anybody could have taken his character, I felt that they didn't nail this movie, that the game is I'd rather play the game than watch the movie. I'm not saying it was a total waste of time, but I wouldn't pay my money to go out and see Uncharted. I felt that it was Uncharted because it was all over the place. You couldn't trust anybody in the film. So when you say, hey, you can trust him, you can trust anybody in the film because everybody was trying to backstab each other. And I think that that's the thing that could make it exciting. But there was something missing in this film that made it like, whoa, this is the one to watch, because I love a treasure hunt and I love a heist. And I think they tried to put both of those two things together and they just didn't hit a home run for me. I think they left some things out at sea.
Well, Reggie, have you played the video game? I'm
I
curious.
I have not played the video game, but I
Okay.
have seen the video game, and I'm just saying
Okay.
that I think that the movie made me say, "Let me just go play the video game instead."
I mean, listen, you ain't never seen, you've seen it, you haven't played it, but now you want to play it because of the film. I'm not mad at it. Listen, at the end of the day, I mean, I truly will not pay to see this film at all. Um, uh, but I will watch it when it comes on TV later. Like when it, comes on, when it inevitably comes on, what I like to call TBS, maybe even TNT. I will definitely, like pick it up to watch. Listen, again, I did not have a problem with. I didn't have a problem with anyone except for Mark Wahlberg. Like I just felt like they were doing the job that they were given. But also, what is very clear is that this will be a big kind of summer hit, which I was confused when they released this in February because I do feel like it is one of those like blockbuster action hits that we will see more iterations of. Also because there are so many different games. So
Yeah. No, no, no. I 100% agree with you. I would watch this one in on TV when I got home. All right, let's move. Talking about TV, let's move to TV. Katya, I already started this off saying, look, I am tired of Philadelphia, Philadelphia, Philadelphia. If I see one more Philadelphia thing, but that's all right. Y'all got something good out there, and it's Abbott Elementary. Talk about this one.
I so love this show. This show is about a school in Southwest, not South, Southwest Philadelphia. Um, and it's an elementary school, and our heroine, oh, Janine, you know what I mean? Quinta, who came up with the show, who is from Philadelphia, who went to Temple, shout out to Temple U. And she came up with this concept of, these different teachers at this elementary school, and she loves teaching. She's a new teacher. She's only been teaching about 2 to 3 years. She teaches second grade, and she is like really naive and good-hearted and sees the good in everything and has a can-do attitude, and it's a positive and it's a negative. The principal, Ava, excuse me, not Ava, is basically a principal by blackmail. You know what I mean? Who don't really care about being principal. She just likes the title principal. The part where she's got to do the job, she's kind of sketchy on. Then we have Melissa, who's the other second grade teacher, who is from South Philly, who really embodies South Philly, which is Italians mainly. And she embodies that attitude, and she's a veteran teacher. Miss Barbara, who's played by the Shirley Ralph, who is the model for Quinta's real life mother, who it was a teacher. So she modeled Miss Barbara after her. And Miss Barbara is old school. She's really good at her job. And she's kind of like the voice of reason for Janine when Janine be coming up with her ideas, and you like, girl, leave it alone. You know what I mean? And also we can't forget about Greg. Greg is the sub that really, come on, Greg, you're part of the team. You've been teaching for a year, to a point where people have come decorate the classroom, right? And Greg really wanted to do Ava's job. And he really is still confused how Ava got the job over him. And he's a teacher by default, but you know what I mean? He kind of likes Janine. Greg pretends he don't want to be a part of the team, but he's a part of the team. And it's just a really, really, really good show. Oh, I forgot, what's the other gentleman's name? The one that was like the Peace Corps type. The white gentleman. Jacob. So right. So and Jacob and Janine are both new teachers, and Jacob's been like in Peace Corps and that type of thing. So he feels as though this is where he belongs, helping disenfranchised people, but it be coming out a mess. The beauty of the show is it is shot in this docu style, and everybody is on something, but together they're a nice colossal mess. And what I love too is that you can tell that it's a homage and respect to teachers and the struggles and the things that they have to overcome in the public school system. And most importantly, they care about the kids. Now they may go about it well, other than Ava, but they may go about it in a crazy way. But at the root of it is they care about the kids, they care about the school, and Janine is the embodiment of it. And that woman loves teaching so much that she might even electrocute herself in order to help these kids.
That's right.
And it's written really intelligently. You can tell she's from Philadelphia. Like the episode last week was about the best pizza. In Philadelphia, there are 3 food conversations that are always going to be interesting. Number 1, cheesesteak. Number 2, hoagie. Number 3, pizza. Be careful how you proceed with all 3. They can be the beginning or the end of a friendship.
Well, we gonna have to have that conversation on another day. But KB, you saw this as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm an avid watcher of the show. I think it is so smart. It's brilliant. I think the comedy is so corny, which is why you love it. Like it is corny, but that's why like I'm here for it. Like I laughed way too hard on that voice to men on bended knee joke. Like I just truly was like, what is happening? So I think each character brings kind of their own unique like depth to the teaching role, but also approach. Like, poor Greg. It hasn't quite yet been a full year, but Greg is new to the scene, and he is most qualified to be principal. Based on all of the education and work that he's done. And yeah, here comes Ava, who is trying to convince the kids to read books to her while she puts cucumbers on her eyes and rests in the middle of the day. Why don't you just sit here and read for me? Like, Ava, these kids are not your personal slaves. Like, I mean, it's truly like, what are you doing? So, Ava, though, is hilarious because she is exactly the type of person where they fell into their career. Now, granted, she did this on purpose because of blackmail, but mostly she fell into this career and she is just doing things her own way. And sometimes she gets it right, but it's always by accident. It's never because she actually planned to do this way. So I just think everyone's great. Cheryl Lee Roth is amazing. I mean, Janine is kind of growing on her slowly but surely. Like, really, Janine is very annoying because she is positive Patty. And the rest of the coworkers are like, "Now, girl, if you don't just relax, we ain't got to change everything. She just want to change the world. She's eager. She has a kind heart, and I love that." I am looking forward though to seeing this Janine and Greg storyline progress because I think it's so adorable, and we know it's coming. Like we know that they are going to be together. But I just like this slow build, this slow burn, this slow friendship. And then too, I admire Jacob. Now Jacob say the wrong thing 90% of the time. Like what he say, I applied to Morehouse. Now Jacob, why why would you do that? Like Jacob, why would you do this?
Because that's him. He went and helped the black folks.
Jacob said, I want to be fully invested in the cause. And so, like I love the episode where like they are gardening. Oh my God. Like just the way he
yes.
the way he approached this gardening situation was really sending me. And then how Greg is on the back end, like none of their plants will actually grow because they're doing this all wrong. I just was like, this is amazing. So I just love the heart of the show. I think it is so brilliant, so smart, so fun. And it just is so endearing. And I think, very much like how I love Ted Lasso, there's something to be said about characters who are positive in negative situations. Because, I mean, child, they got a lot of obstacles going up against them in the Philadelphia public school system. But Janine said, I'm going to keep my heart. And I love that.
I love a lot of what both of you guys said. I want to kind of, I guess, piggyback on 2 of the things that you said, KB. The first one is about the heart. The heart of this show is so warming and so loving that you can't help but enjoy the show. Because everybody there. Even the misguided principal, everybody there is trying to do the best job for these kids. So I like the heart. I also like that you made a comparison with Ted Lasso, because it has that same kind of quirky humor and these different types of characters that you start to get invested in each one of the characters. Not one of the characters are throwaways. We're like, okay, I want to know more about this one. I want to know more about that one. I like there's plenty of episodes because you guys talk about laughing out loud. I laughed out loud so many times, and I'm glad that I was by myself, because I think my family would have been like, "What was he laughing at?" Because I was just sitting there, and it was just funny. Even some of the sad things that happened were funny, and it was like, now that's funny. Now, having been a teacher for 4 years, I know for a fact that they're getting this stuff right about the challenges and the things that they do. But I refer to my sister Sharon, who is a Golden Apple finalist this year in Chicago, one of the best teachers that I know, and she loves this show. She talks about how accurate it is. It really does look at the challenges and also some of the triumphs that you have, and then the relationships that you have with each other. So I really love this show, and Quinta is so smart. I mean, just smart. The writing is smart. The way it's shot. Katya, you talked about this. I guess documentary.
Documentary style.
It's mockumentary.
It's just a smart show, and I for me, this is a must watch. So
I agree, and and one of my favorite episodes is finding out that Janine's boyfriend is a SoundCloud rapper. I was like, Janine, and everybody, as much as Janine can be annoying, they do love her, and they're like, girl, you cannot settle for this. Like, you are meant to be more than this, right? And you just be looking, we all got that friend, and we looking at the boyfriend, and we like, girl, you got all of this going on, and you choosing this. This don't make sense. And I love how they had that little report, she doing the money dance. Like, these little touches are so smart, and they make you more endearing to the characters. And I agree with you, KB. Again, there's a lot going on in the world right now. Like, really, really, really legit.
Yeah.
Like, distraught, heavy stuff. You know what I mean? And I feel like this show is a blessing to just remind us that there is goodness in the world. And she is really, like, if you have a chance to speak to her, please do. She is genuinely a positive, uplifting person. So it comes through in this creative process. We're all looking at ABC, like, the ratings are there. The social media support is there. Come on now, season 2, make it a donezo.
Yeah,
that and the new Wonder Years, like, come on.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I mean, I think that it's a slow build. Like, I'm not worried that they will be renewed at all. I think what they're trying to do is just do like a rollout that makes sense for their announcements. And ABC never. I mean, it is very rare, but like, there's only one show really that they announce fairly early of getting renewals, and that's really Grey's Anatomy. Yeah. And that's only because they've been doing it for what feels like 35 years.
Oh, God.
So, like, that's really the only show. Normally, ABC will hold their announcements until the, end of the seasons, the TV season, and they'll do their big kind of rollout. So I don't think anyone's worried about Abbott Elementary, especially because the president of ABC has said multiple times it is his favorite show, and he loves being in business with Quinta. And so I don't think we have anything to worry about at all. I actually, and I feel like ABC historically is not kind to comedies. I will say, because they definitely canceled Happy Endings, which was a terrible decision. But I think something that we may be surprised is ABC doesn't do like multi-season renewals. But I wouldn't be surprised if Abbott Elementary got a 2-season kind of renewal order for the first time, because they don't do that. But I could see them doing it because of how big of a hit it is. And because we always talking about Ted Lasso, and Apple didn't realize how much the show would blow up the way that it did. And I think that, ABC sees the value and they might actually do a multi-season renewal.
I really hope so. And I didn't get to say what because I like the show so much, I got all caught up in my own words. I didn't get to say what my not favorite episode, but one of the episodes that I like is the episode where they're doing the gifted program. And the reason I like that episode is that they really do show the good intentions, but also the impact that has on the rest of the school. Sometimes we're like, okay, we're going to promote these kids, but what are we going to do for the rest of the kids? And I really like that they tackled that issue, because there are a lot of kids who are saying, I want chickens in my room too. I mean, what's up with that? So it's one of my favorite episodes because it was funny, but it was also it really tackled some serious issues. Again, I think this is a must watch. With that, I want to make sure that we can get in one more, and that would be I got one that I wanted you to talk about, which is Fat Tuesdays, KB.
Yeah, so Fat Tuesdays, the era of hip hop comedy, is available now on, Amazon Prime Video. It is a TV documentary series about this 1990s showcase that was hosted and created by Guy Tori. I mean, honestly, like, we don't talk enough about Guy Tori and what he did in the comedic scene. And this is exactly what this series does, is it gives him his flowers right now, because the mere fact that he created Fat Tuesdays at the legendary Comedy Store in LA as a night for Black comedians to come and to have an opportunity to do their stand up and to be heard and to be seen. And then how at one point Fat Tuesdays was carrying the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store wasn't making any money apart from Fat Tuesdays, and how it just launched the careers of so many people. It's interesting because I think one of the most fascinating portions, and I got an opportunity to talk to Guy Tori and the iconic director Reginald Hudlin, excuse me, who directed this series, about just who they never saw coming. Like, I really asked Guy, like, who came to Fat Tuesdays that you never saw coming, the trajectory of the career? And he said emphatically, Nick Cannon. He said Nick Cannon, he always knew was talented. And Nick was actually too young to be in the Comedy Store at the time. Like, he definitely was underage. And he was a rapper when he first came. But Guy said he just saw something in him that was so unique. And he let him come in and he let him be it like a little opener because he didn't think it was going to do too much. And then look at Nick's career since then. And look how, Nick has even created Wild 'N Out, which is honestly like a televised spinoff of Fat Tuesdays, in my personal opinion. Like, it's just an opportunity for the comedians to get together. I mean, it does do a lot more because they roast each other, they battle, they do a lot of things. There's a lot of elements of hip hop in that too. But it was just such an interesting documentary to watch and to see. And also to see the story between Guy and his brother, Joe. I don't know what happened between them. And it's still kind of very vague in the series. I will say the series touches on it a little bit, but I'm kind of glad they didn't really dive into their family business. Like, y'all really need to handle what went wrong between the two of you. But it's so interesting to hear Joe's take, because Joe was hot first before Guy even came to LA. And he had paved the way for his brother's career, which he was happy to do kind of as an older brother and usher him in. But even Joe said, like, nobody had a work ethic like Guy. And, I think that comes full circle, and it's showcased well in this, docu-series. So I think it's really, really good. Just the way Guy Tori put on Black women, which was something that wasn't really being done in the comedic scene as well. The way Guy Tori put on queer and trans comedians at a time when that wasn't happening.
Back then, though. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was just a really good and interesting series. And I really wish more people were watching it and talking about it, because there's so much rich history of our history kind of in it. And I was so glad, like, I knew about Fat Tuesdays kind of growing up because I heard about it, but obviously I didn't go. Like, I was too young. I wasn't in California going to Fat Tuesdays. Like, I was a child. But I do think that, like, it was such an interesting time. And I do remember, the way we kind of used music and comedy and fused it together. And look now, like, even having a look back at Cedric the Entertainer's career and Anthony Anderson's career and Steve Harvey's career, and how everything started. And then also too, I would be remiss if I didn't say I love the first episode because it does pay tribute to a lot of Black comedians that we have since lost and have passed on. It was a great look to see their careers and how the Comedy Store impacted them as well. And I learned something too. I didn't know Pauly Shore's mom was the owner and operator of the Comedy Store either. And that Pauly Shore, really grew up around a ton of Black comedians. Like I had no idea because this is kind of the life that he lived when his mother opened this.
No, that's excellent, Katya.
I knew that Pauly Shore's mom owned the Comedy Store, and that she was one of the few that was more welcoming to Black comedians for a long time. I am so glad that Guy Torry is getting his due. But the other thing is, Guy Torry is a really good actor. Period. If you ever watch The History of American Acts, which he doesn't play a funny guy in that. That's a very
that's a
serious, tough movie to sit through. You know what I mean? And he's always been that nugget in these movies where he is you're like, I know I'm supposed to watch I Came for This, but I'm staying for Guy. I don't know why they have a riff, and sometimes it can be because Joe came first and he was doing stuff, and then Guy comes through and he's getting into pockets and spaces that Joe has not been open for Joe and hasn't been made available for Guy. Do you know what I mean? And some of it can be work ethic or whatever. But I did find that also very interesting, exactly what you guys said. So in the 90s, we can put on comedians that are gay, that are trans, and all of that, and be supportive and understanding. And now we acting like we don't get why making fun and just being downright disrespectful is not okay. Like the two, I'm like, we agreed that they belong in that space, but then you are like, something got lost in the sauce. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a very other interesting conversation. The other thing too is the amount of comedians that came out of it. I talked about Anthony Anderson the other day. I first was introduced to Anthony Anderson in Hang Time, where he played Teddy. That was a show that used to come on. I have a younger sister, so it was a show. Remember, NBC used to have these tween shows.
I remember Hang Time.
Instead of cartoons, NBC had the one show was brother and sister were in the band, and then it was the high school basketball team, and Anthony Anderson played Teddy Bear, and his nickname was Teddy Bear, and he has been acting really and doing comedy and all that since he was a teenager. We don't talk enough about how he transitioned from a youth actor to an adult actor with no type of drama, no type of craziness, and all of that. And again, it was a pipeline for so many people that are still working today, that got TV shows, TV deals, and the list goes on and on. And I'm so glad that they do it. Give the people their flowers. Let's talk about things, whether people are here and everybody's memory shop, instead of somebody else coming in there and telling their version of things. And you're like, did that happen? Were you there? So I agree. And hopefully through us talking about it, other people talking about it, there more people will hit play.
Yeah, I just thank you both of you guys for talking about it. I think Fat Tuesdays is real important. So important. I'll say something that you guys have not put out there is that it spawned comedy clubs in other cities. So to do the same thing, or to just start up itself. And I know during that time there were a couple of places in Chicago that fed off of that same kind of energy that came out of Fat Tuesday. Because when you making money like that, when you're saving the club that was not meant for the Black people, hey now. I mean, it's a really, really good story. I will say is that even though I know the guy did things for women, and so this is not a knock against him, I still felt that the women representation was not at the level that I would have liked it to have been. Huh? What'd you say, Kate?
She's saying that needed to be more. I agree with you, Reggie, on that.
Yeah, and so it's not a knock on him at all. But I can't hear you, KB. You seem like you might be on mute.
Darling. There you
My
go.
bad. You still wanted it to be more plentiful.
Yeah, it is something in comedy. Like my number one thing with this whole Monique situation, I always ask all these people claiming to support Monique. Chris Rock produced and directed Amy Schumer's first HBO special. Think about that. Produced, directed her special. I don't agree with a lot of things the way Monique goes about her business, and I think her husband is the beginning and end of all of that, right? But I do find it weird that you have Kevin Hart has a comedy special, puts on other comedians, uses his production company for his boys. There are no plastic cup girls. I do think that is an issue in our community. I look at Dave. Dave, you have a lot of power. Throw some of that power and be like, hey, let me put Monique in the forefront and give her that platform. Let me share my platform. And that is something that, we don't ask enough of these men. Why are you more comfortable supporting these white women, but you're not willing to do that and shout out to Tiffany Haddish, who did do that. She used her platform, used her deal, and she brought on one of them being Ida Rodriguez, who went on to have her own HBO special. So I think, Reggie, you make a very good point. While he did have women on there, it is still a huge disparity that Black male comedians don't support Black women comedians at the rate as they do others.
And so my last point to that is that, I always got something to buck against what you just said, is that I think that applies to everybody except Monique. And the reason I do is that my mother always says is who's the common denominator, is that I don't know Monique. So I wish her no ill will. I really, really want her to get back on the scene. However, it seems that everybody she gets involved with has a problem with her. And so what my mother would say is, who's the common denominator? So everybody else, all the other stuff that you talked about, I started this conversation. So I want to see more women. And I think that it's really interesting how we think that men are funnier than women just in general, is that don't give women their shine. But as it relates to Monique, I think Monique is going to have to do some stuff on her own. That there's some stuff that Monique needs to figure out, because everybody can't be right. I mean, wrong, excuse me. Everybody can't be wrong. And so too many people are having problems with it. That's my thought on Monique. But, that's just something my mama taught me.
I know you're right. And her husband, but we not going to go there because we trying to be, and Black History Month on a high note.
Yeah, I really want her to be on. Hey, KB, you got to get out. All right, so we'll end here, and then Katya and I will stay and talk a little bit about Bel Air. I'm sorry you haven't seen it yet, but let me say this to you before you get sign out. Firstly, thank you for taking the time out, because I know you're ripping and running. But secondly, you told me about Ted Lasso. I'm just going to tell you about Bel Air. You need to
listen, I've seen parts of it, but I don't have time right now. So I'm going to be honest. I literally do not have time to add nothing else.
Not one
thing. So
no problem. See, I'm
going to have to binge it, like I've seen, parts of the first episode, but I'm going to have to binge it appropriately. I need it to build up. Like, give me like 7 episodes, so I can really sit there and just watch it through. And honestly, that's the way I watch Saved by the Bell on Peacock too. I like to just let me binge like 7 or 8 episodes, because I also think Saved by the Bell is a very smart comedy that's out right now that doesn't get as much appreciation as it should too. Well, so I'm like, listen, Peacock is doing some things. I just need this press game to be up. Like I need it to be way up.
Apple and Amazon, they need to come to Jesus.
I need it to be, because good content. It's not for a lack of good content. Yes.
Yeah, it can't be like the rings are coming. Oh, by the way, since you're here to see the rings, come see this. Or if you're here to see Ted Lasso, come see this. I'd be watching stuff on Apple TV, and I'd be wanting to talk to people about it. And it's me, myself, and I.
And I will say the casting in Bel Air has been so there's a lot of good casting in Bel Air. Again, I just don't have the time to keep up with it. Like, I don't know when it come on in real life. Like, that's why I need the streaming. I'm not even for the live. I don't know when it come on in real life. I need y'all to build it up so I can catch up and finish watching.
So let me just say this to you, because you are the television person in the television association. They sent me 8 episodes. So
And they did not. So I will say I didn't get a single episode.
So
So,
I'm saying to you,
Mhm.
I can tell you who I got it from and all the other type of
Okay.
stuff because that's your feel. I was surprised that I was able to get that. So I'm on episode four right now. I can't talk about it because they got embargoes and all this type of stuff. And
Mhm.
girl, I'm just saying, put that one on your list. Hey, this is the Real Critic Roundtable. That is KB. She is checking out because she got things to do. KB, thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
All right. So that was KB. We were talking a little bit about Bel Air. So I couldn't leave without talking to Katya just a little bit. We're not going to put it all out there because
No, we can't. Then people are not going to watch.
Right. Because there is an embargo out there. But let me start. This was one of the shows that if you had made a simple remake like you did with Wonder Years and just changed up some people and put some different characters in it, I would have had a fit. Because firstly, I'm tired of these straight remakes just in general. I want you to come up with some different material. And so from the get-go, I like the concept of how they were talking about reimagining this particular show. And after seeing the execution of it, I like this a lot. And I think it has room. It's not 100% perfect, but it is good. And I think that it has real room to grow. I like the pilot episode, which I can talk about, how Will gets into the problems and how he ends up in Bel Air and the relationship with him and Carlton. I like just about all of it. Even though I'm mad at the Will character because I think the Will character disregards the sanctity of life. I'm like, there's too many instances in that first episode where you just put yourself in such danger. But I like this show. I think it's also smart, and I love the casting in this as well. We got to talk to the cast for African American Film Critics Association, and you can check out the whole interview at the AFCA YouTube page. So that's AAFCA, and they told us a little something, and it was fun. By the way, Katya, it was fun. Talk about the show.
I think I probably did not love Fresh Prince as much as a lot of people, especially when the whole Aunt Viv thing, that it never sat right with me because it was done so abruptly and they didn't give the viewers the respect and the courtesy of explaining why the original Aunt Viv was tossed to the side. You know what I mean? And
so let me jump in. Let me jump in real quick. So I'm watching what's soap opera? The Young and the Restless, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching The Young and the Restless, and I just want to say I hear your point, but they change people all the time.
But that's soap operas.
No, because there'd be some deep stuff. So they just changed one of the major characters, and the reason they changed the major character is because he violated the COVID protocol. But they didn't tell us. They just put.
But we know that happened in soap operas. In soap operas, you can be beheaded and come back next year, and you're like, wait a minute, your head was cut off. And 1 minute the kid is 4, and the next episode the kid is 24. And we just go in a soap opera. We accept that because that's part of the absurdity and the entertainment of a soap opera. We know it's crazy, but we know for 1 minute, Victor was 20, and next thing you know, he's 55, and you're like, oh. Okay, that's what we doing, right? It don't make sense. But I think with this is because we had invested stuff.
We did
with this character. It wasn't like season 1 and then they recast it. It was like season 5. You know what I mean? And I think also Maxwell. I think the woman that took over, Daphne Maxwell Reid, she kind of like made it seem like she was a part of the success when she really wasn't. She was gifted a very good gift. And I think she owns Janet a little bit of a, you know what, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to get this gig. Because when we think about Fresh Prince, let's keep it all the way 100. We think about Janet as Aunt Viv. We don't think
Right, but here's my pushback to you though, Katya, is that I believe you're right. She was gifted and she owned it, but I can't say
but it's
she
really
wasn't
like, and I'm glad they spoke though.
right, and I can't say she wasn't part of the success. Is that it's not everybody can come into the role and play it, and she wasn't just a afterthought. She still was a major. The role was a major part of the thing, and I think that her transition, she owned it, and she was able to make people. A lot of people who didn't see the beginning of the show think that she was the original Aunt Viv. A lot of people didn't even know that because like with Grey's Anatomy, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna tell you, with Grey's Anatomy, I didn't come in on the first season. I came in on season 8. So
I dropped out at season 8.
so I'm just saying a lot of people do that, be like, okay, people keep talking about I need to watch this. What's the fuss about? And so then they watch it and they're whatever. So I don't have a problem with you having a problem with the change, with the switch, because I do always have a problem with this whole, we talked about the colorism thing, and
Yeah.
that's a whole nother issue that you and I could talk about forever. But I don't want to cheapen
No, I mean it's an impossible situation. But at
yeah,
the same token, like I feel like when you don't talk about something, it makes it more awkward and worse. Instead of being like, you know what, I did benefit from this. But going on to the new situation, number one, the casting is amazing.
fire,
Everybody's chocolate. For
fire,
the most part, the kids, like, sometimes we'd be like, did you, the kid, it's off here, right?
except Ashley.
Actually, but her storyline grows. We can't talk about it.
I
But
don't. I'm not even mad that they gave that they have some light skin in there. I'm
no,
not
but
mad
the
about that.
majority, yes, and I love that Hillary on the sitcom was a little ditzy. She wasn't the sharpest knife in the tool shed, as I like to say. And not in this. She has agency and she's smart and she knows who she is and where she wants to go. And I love the fact between mother and I have a daughter, you know what I mean? And I work really, really hard to remember this is her life. Because my mother was a lot like Aunt Viv, wanting to direct my life, wanting to kind of like, and me having to say, I appreciate it, but I don't want this. So I think that's very authentic in the mother-daughter relationship. I also like the relationship between Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, where Aunt Viv is trying to figure out where she fits in that, because everything has been about his life and his ambitions, and she's kind of gotten lost in the sauce. That's very normal in a marriage. That's very normal in a relationship.
For sure.
That's very normal in just overall, when you love your husband and your kids are older and you're like, what happened to my dreams? I do like the storyline with Colton. You know what I mean? He had his father, he had his position, his school, and here comes in Will, and everything becomes about Will. And I think that's a very interesting storyline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like what they said is what it looks like to be Black. My number one issue when people critique or try to police Blackness with some of these critiques of Bel Air. You can say like this needed to be developed a little bit better. This needed to be flushed out a little bit better. I respect all of that. But I have a freaking problem when you have some of these hate critics. And I'm like, I always say this, number one, Black people are global. The day we were taken off the continent, we became global people. Voluntarily, involuntarily, whatever, both ways. Number two is, not all Black people are poor. Not all Black people grew up without having nice things. And I keep saying there's nothing wrong if you grew up poor or anything. We are not responsible for what we're born into. But at the same time, I'm tired of us trying to say when we show Black life and affluence and what comes with living in that environment, oh, that's not real. That's not authentic. That's not good representation. I went to a predominantly white high school, and the parties, the drugs, all of that is part of the scene. And if you are a Black person going to that type of school, those are the type of events you attend. And some Black kids fall into that trap, and how to cope with things. And other Black kids are like, no, my mama will kill me. I can't do that. So it's just all of that is part of that. So Carlton to me represents very much the Black experience on a different lens. So I don't quite understand why people are like, oh, that's not authentic. Last thing I'm going to say this.
But can I say?
I
But
love the
can you
fact
remember
that
that?
Will
Can
is
you
Will.
can you remember your last point? Because I want to make a
I would
point.
say that I think that Carlton is very much a part of the Black experience, and people saying that he's not authentic. No, it's not authentic to you because that's not your reality. We need to stop doing that. Just because you didn't experience it or see it, or that's not your truth, doesn't make it a non-truth.
And then, so you had one more point. Go ahead.
And my one point is one thing that I love about Abbott Elementary in this school. When people, this is another criticism that I don't think is valid. I'm not from Chicago. I'm not going to ever say when I judge something that's based in Chicago, whether or not the language, the food, the flow of the city is correct. I can't speak on that. I'm not from Chicago. I can speak on the other parts of it. If you're not from Philadelphia, you can't say whether or not that is authentic. And I tell you how I knew it hit home because my daughter's not a critic, but we watched a couple episodes together. My daughter's watching Bel Air, and my daughter's at TU at Temple University right now, and she said, Will talks just like a West Philly bull. That is a compliment because his swagger, the vernacular, like somebody said he uses John too often. That's what people do in Philadelphia. You know that, John. Give me that, John. Oh, I see you. All that part is a part of our vernacular. And that's why you know when somebody's from Philadelphia when you say West Side. In the thing I said when he said we're on 56th, right? 56th is the heart of West Philly, right? Anything above 50th Street. So the L, which is what we call the train line that goes east-west, that corner when they're walking by the row houses, very Philadelphia. It was a little clean. It was a little too clean, but it's still, you knew you were in Philadelphia. So when I read critics saying, oh, this, that, and the third, I'm like, clearly you never said boots in West Philly. That part is, and to ask Will, and you can help me on this a little bit. Will just been living in West Philadelphia, dealing with West Philadelphia. Will has never really left that part of the world. That's his whole world, his whole existence, everything he knows. To now get thrown into Bel Air, you want him to turn into Will from Bel Air in like 6 weeks? That's just not normal. You know what I mean?
No,
He's still trying to make sense of, number one, being out of the state of Pennsylvania. Number two, being in an environment where he doesn't have to worry about how much something costs, having food in the refrigerator. It's just a myriad of resources that he just never had. And at the same time, still trying to hold on to himself. So I think that part, is an unjustified critique.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're absolutely right. If you were, you and I are going to have to get into the pizza debate at some point in time, but we won't this time. But if you're in Chicago and you're talking about pizza, I mean, there's 4 places that you have to mention. And if it was a television show and you didn't mention those 4 places and you were mentioning places, we know that you weren't from Chicago, because you'd have to at least mention those 4 places. Not that they're the best, but they're thought of as iconic when you come to our city. Same thing, and when you go to Philly, if you're gonna go to a cheesecake, not cheesecake, I'm sorry,
Cheesesteak place.
this cheesesteak place, there's 2 places that I know have to be mentioned. And you from there, so there might be more than that, but I know at least 2 places got to be mentioned. So you're right about the culture, the language. There's certain things that if you don't live in that place, you can't critique that. Now you can say that maybe they didn't do a good job of making Will a full character, or I mean that could be a critique. I don't think that's the case, but you could make that kind of critique because you're talking about the person, but not the people and the culture inside of that. So I totally agree with that. What I like about this is that I think that all these characters have agency. You just talked about how Hillary used to be the ditz, or but not Carlton, Jazz used to have all the jokes made against him. Uncle Phil would have Jeffrey making all the jokes against him. These people, they have flipped the script totally. All of these people are smart. There's not one person in here that doesn't have a brain. And I love the fact that they flipped it. They said, okay, we're not going to make fun of these people. What we're going to do is that we're going to show you how these people have their own strength and their own values, and I just love it. I also like your point about Will changing right away. Here is my problem with Will as a character, not Will as how they wrote him. I'm like, dude, you would be dead in my family because you're gonna come up into Uncle Phil's house and you're gonna challenge him about what he trying to do for you. I'd be slapping him. I'd be slapping him left and right. But I think that that's part of the storyline. Obviously, is they're saying that he still got that West Philly in him and he can't change. I like how in that first episode, because we can talk about the first episode, how Aunt Viv says, "Look, I'm glad that you are bringing your South Philly. I missed South Philly. I haven't had this in such a long time." And you can bring it, but you're also going to have to figure out how to adapt it. You're going to have to figure out how to adapt because it's going to. And then he said, "Well, you changed." No, I didn't change. I adapted. And I think that that's such a good point that they make about our blackness is how we have to adapt in different situations and different areas and we go into. Then my last point is going to be this. The reason that I hate, not the reason, I cannot stomach when people say that those lives are not real. And that's how come, just making a segue, we will not talk about it in full here. That's how come a show like The Gilded Age is important. Because what The Gilded Age does is it reframes Black excellence. It reframes that Black people weren't always the yes, sir, yes, ma'am, yes, whatever. And if we had seen The Gilded Age before Cosby, Cosby wouldn't have gotten the kind of criticism that it got, at least not as much of the criticism it got. Oh, it's not real. We don't see no families like that. Well, The Gilded Age shows us that, and I think it has relevance as we talk about Bel Air, that it really has relevance in that way as well, because people have not really seen the opulence, the way in which we navigate, and all that other type of stuff until you look at Peggy in The Gilded Age. It helps them form.
Oh God, yes. Yes. I think there is a lack of education. Part of it is not all of us. I don't want to generalize. There's a portion of our community that is not putting books into the hands of our kids and exposing them to different types of literature and history. The other part too is we're not taking our kids to museums to see these things that go along with the books. You know what I mean? I always talk about how my daughter and I watched John Adams. And that was I was watching it. She was like, "Mom," started watching it. And then we ended up watching all the episodes, right? And I said, "Well, since you enjoy this, we're in Philadelphia. Let's go to Independence Hall." If you know anything about me, know that I love that tour. I can give that tour forward and backwards I can probably do that tour better than the tour guides. So I use that for us to go to Alfred's Corner, to see Betsy Ross's house, to the Liberty Bell, to see where Ben Franklin is. I think that's where we need to start. You know, if you know your kid is a visual learner, okay, now supplement that with the book. You know, her seeing Hamilton. Okay, let's go to the hall where we have all the representatives, right? And my little running joke is I always start with the tallest and the shortest. Tallest is obviously Washington. Shortest was Hamilton, and my daughter was Hunter. I said, because he's 6 feet tall. And you know, Hamilton was always agitating because, you know, I said short people, Napoleon syndrome. So then, you know, I go through all the other people. Obviously, we know Ben Franklin because his body type, and then you get into all the other reps. And I'm like, that's part of it. You know what I mean? And I'm so glad that in The Gilded Age, we do see it because, again, I mean, even that they tackle it, because the assumption was that Peggy is poor. And I'm like, no, they just live in Brooklyn because Black people weren't allowed to live in Manhattan. But don't get it twisted. them people are living fine and it's also in the costuming of
oh my goodness.
she's
So
not
we're gonna have
wearing
to talk.
rags.
We're gonna have to talk about. We actually gonna have to talk about Gilded Age
We are going to have to talk about Gilded Age, but
at
I'm just
another
like,
time.
I'm
But
glad
I
you
thought
said
it had
that.
relevance. I just thought it had relevance to our discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, we see a lot of work, you and I. And what is it that we always say? I am not mad that we talk about slavery because we have to, because this country is trying to rewrite its original sin by banning these books and spouting the CTR crap, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But our history didn't begin and end with that chapter. It's a huge part of our chapter and it informs our chapter. But when my friend Chuck Crickmore just asked a very important question. He said, when you think of Black families, like in terms of like royalty, everybody mentioned like entertainers. I said the Calhouns, which were the relatives of Lena Horne, her descendants, who came out of slavery and set up in the South, were quite successful, which set up her getting the schooling and a lot of the things that she got. So I think you're 100% correct. We need to stop saying that the only Black representation that's authentic is us trauma, us poor, us being in some type of drug dealing thing, and it just needs to stop.
Yeah. My last comment is that John wrote that you can't teach or show what yourself. I think he's saying yourself hasn't experienced, and so you still have a lot of Black families that view knowledge as something white. I think that that's right. I do think though. I think that the bigger issue is the system really wants you not to see the history. I am so, and I say this to you a lot, Katya. I feel embarrassed, and you guys tell me not to feel embarrassed, but I feel embarrassed at 60 to be learning about stuff that I think I should know. The Gilded Age stuff is like, oh, I didn't see that when I was growing up, and I don't know where I would have seen that. I don't even know even if I would have seen that at our DuSable Museum, which we went to. So there's so much to trying to build off of John's point, that there's so much out there that we don't know, and I'm just learning about. That it seems kind of embarrassing to be like, how come I didn't know this? But my kids. When they went to public school, and there was Black History Month, and I tell you, in both of their schools, I think maybe once they had a Black History assembly. So
it's bad.
in terms of us trying to teach history and trying to show a different thing, this is going to get a little bit off point, but I think it's still relevant. Is that there's these laws in Florida that are saying that you can't teach. I mean, they're trying to put a law in Florida saying that you can't teach anything about sexual orientation in the school system.
In Florida is, as I like to say, is just give the whole state away. I mean, there are good people who live in Florida, but it's just, this is why I am asking, as a journalist, we see all these stories of white parents showing up, screaming bloody murder at these school board meetings, and it's a one-sided debate. You mean to tell me out of all these school board meetings, ain't nobody of color showing up to have a counterpoint of view? That white people's voices and tax money is the only one that matters in these school districts. And it's going to come down to this if we keep going down this road, where when you have children, prior to them going to school, you're going to have to move to an area where this craziness is not going on, where book planning isn't going on, or you're going to have to ante up the money to send your kids to private school. It is, or even worse, you might have to be like, you know what? Let me pack up my 2x4s and move to Europe, Asia, or even back to the continent.
I think even worse. I think even worse is that, or you're gonna have to stay because you have no means to do anything else.
Or you're gonna have to home. You're gonna have to.
I think the worst is that you're gonna have to stay. Well, I take my mother for instance. I'm not sure that my mother could have picked up. She got 8 kids and she couldn't homeschool because she's working. I don't see. I see the worst is you're going to have to stay in that system. And there's going to be people who are going to have to stay in that system. My mother's working 2 jobs, got 8 kids. I can't homeschool. You have to go to that school down the street.
But we have to show up, though. We got to show up to school board meetings.
But when you have 2 jobs, I just want to say, I hear you. But when you have 2 jobs,
the same token is,
my mom didn't have no time
that, and I understand it. But if we don't start showing up at these school board meetings, today it's, you can't talk about this. CTR, which is not even being taught at that level. That's the crazy part, right?
No.
And then
no
it's
doubt,
like,
no
we
doubt.
can't do this.
No
I'm
doubt.
just saying, you are paying, whether you want to or not, into that school system. Shouldn't you have a say in the type of education that your kids are getting? And don't Black kids and Latino kids and Native American kids, Asian kids, and LGBTQ plus kids' rights matter too? Or are we only caring about the white kids? And that's what I'm saying is, I know it's hard, but if you can't come because you work, somebody else in the family needs to show up, because you're going to wake up and we are going to get, it's already a challenge for us to get good education in the inner city.
No,
it's going to go back to like Jim Crow type of days. Where you're going to get books where Jimmy Carter's the president still. That's not okay.
You are so right. Look, I get a chance to talk to my John Card. Thanks for joining us. I see you making comments in the side. I get to talk to my friends at all the time. Katya, I'll see you out in LA.
Yeah, next week we'll be together for family. And I just want to say to people, like, I know it's a hard time. Like the other day, I literally cried. I was like, we are failing to give our kids a better world. I really was naive enough to think we were going to be the generation post-Vietnam to not have war be a part of our major wars, be a part of our discussion, that we were not going to have some of the things that our parents, this turmoil that our parents were dealing with, being young in the 60s. And I really sometimes have to question myself, especially as we call ourselves. I mean, I take pride in being a journalist. I take pride in what I write and what I want to share with our community. And I know you do as well. We really, yes, it's entertainment. At the same time, we try to use our platforms to inform and uplift. But at the same time, I am begging us as Black people, stop getting your news from gossip sites. It is just inexcusable. There are too many Black people, Black journalists fighting hard in these newsrooms to have our stories told, to have our perspectives told with dignity. And I am trying to understand, in this age of more information than ever, why we're choosing to be blunt, not all of us, choosing to be blind and dumb by digesting this trash. We all like escapism, but you should not be getting your news. I'm talking about like how you move through the world from gossip sites. Like, it's just an embarrassment. 2 things that happened this week. And I see other so-called journalists reposting that. And I'm asking myself, what are you doing, friend? Why are you, like, what happened to checking facts and resources and things like that? And especially in this clickbait society. So I'm really asking those of you that watch us, stop, think, get your information from various news sources. It doesn't just have to be the United States. There's the BBC, the CBC, there's German television. Get different perspectives and get yourself informed so you can have intelligent debate and make intelligent decisions. You should not be going to anything that starts with Hollywood and followed by God knows to find out what's going on at the Kremlin, what's going on in Washington, D.C., at The Hague, and the list goes on and on. Too many people are risking their lives, literally, to bring you news, fighting to have our perspectives told in these newsrooms. And it's not, don't do it. It's just not okay. If you want to know who's dating who, that's what that site is for. But you should not be going for Supreme Court justice, and what the president is doing is just not okay. Like, look at the news briefing and count the number of people that look like us that are at the White House briefing. That's a really hard place to get into. So please, please, please do me a favor. and stop reposting things from people that are not doing their due diligence. We deserve better.
So,
And again,
guys,
I'm happy to see you next week. And I mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I pray
no.
that we all hug your kids, take time out, light some candles, pray that we calm down. It's been hardcore these last 3 years, and I'm just like, can we get predictable back? That's what I want.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm gonna have a section called Katya's Corner because that's what that was. Katya's Corner. I want to thank her again for coming on the show. We talked about some movies and entertainment, but we ended up on something serious. And at the end of the day, while we are trying to help you with your entertainment choices and all of that, we still have families, we still have lives, and we have to try to navigate through this world. So I appreciate the fact that Katya shared her viewpoint. I want to say, John Carr, I see you still putting comments in the comment section. Appreciate you stopping by. This is the Real Critic Roundtable. This week we had KB. She had to go off and do some other things. She is on assignment, as we all are. And we had Katya Woods. Don't forget, this is where African American film critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. And we'll see you guys next time.